Hello and welcome, your curious minds, to the first episode of the Kaleidoscope Show. This is a vibrant and dynamic podcast that offers a constantly shifting and colorful array of topics, ideas, and conversations. My name is Mel, and I'm your host on this journey. I'm a Xennial living in the UK, and you can probably hear from my accent that English is my second language. If you are willing to follow me into this colorful world, we will create and meet some interesting topics, just like a kaleidoscope creates an ever-changing patterns through the reflection of light and colors. This show presents a diverse mix of subjects that keep listeners engaged and interested throughout with a fresh perspective in each episode. The word kaleidoscope can be broken into ancient Greek roots kalos, which means beautiful, and eidos, hopefully I pronounced that right, means to look or to examine something. Taken together, it means observation of beautiful forms. So, where the idea came from for this podcast, I am unfortunately, or fortunately, neuroscience still debates. I am a great procrastinator. Often procrastinate instead of doing a task that I'm trying to avoid. So I quite often stumble upon really interesting subjects during my procrastinatory internet searches. That could be in history, science, biology, art, or even in philosophy. And I would like to share that with my closest ones. Unfortunately, not everyone is interested in it. Therefore, I decided if I can't tell anyone, might as well I should tell everyone. And hopefully, my dear audience, some of you will be actually interested in the weirdness of my mind. So, what is procrastination that led us to this journey? Procrastination is a common behavior that involves delaying or putting off tasks until the last minute to pass out deadlines. And it often occurs despite knowing that this delay could lead us negative consequences. But some scientists claim that this could be a neurodivergent thing, or it just could be the type I am. While it's often seen as a negative habit, there are some surprising upsides to putting things off. For example, procrastination can boost creativity. It allows your subconscious to work on the task, leading to innovative solutions, or could improve time management, forces prioritization and efficient work under pressure, reduces stress, enhances decision making, allows more time to gather information and consider options. It could also promote self-reflection, can indicate a lack of investment or underlying issues, prompting reflection on goals and priorities. However, remember, strategic procrastination can be beneficial, but chronic procrastination can still be harmful. First thing I would like to rumble about today is the 3i Atlas, which is an interstellar asteroid currently traveling to our solar system and first spotted by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Laser Alert System, otherwise known as ATLAS, located in Rio Hurtado, Chile, on the 1st of July 2025. The reason why I'm so upset with this lately, that is all over the internet and it's monitored by NASA, the Chinese Space Agency, the International Space Agency, and the scientific world is divided about that it currently looks like it became like a Schrödinger asteroid because some people think it's just a weirdly behaving giant rock traveling in space, and some people think it could be an alien-made object, maybe even a spaceship or a probe. So there is this scientist called Avi Loeb. He argues that some images are more intriguing and claims that the artificial origins are met with skepticism. And he listed several signs that shows that this interstellar asteroid behaves differently than any other asteroids or comets that we've ever investigated in the past, which is really interesting because at one point, I agree with him that there are possibilities, as I said, like in that case, it could be an asteroid, it could be a spaceship, it could be anything, until we actually see it properly. The 3i Atlas comet is quite fascinating and stands out for several reasons. Number one, the origin. Like most comets, they originate from the Kuiper belt or the Oort cloud. 3i Atlas is an interstellar comet, meaning it comes from outside our solar system, and that gives a unique perspective on the formation of other celestial bodies. Number two, the trajectory. It follows a hyperbolic trajectory, which means it's moving too fast to be captured by our sun's gravity. This is a significant distinction, as most comets are bound to the sun. Number three, chemical composition. The chemical makeup of 3I Atlas is slightly different from typical comets. This variation may reflect the unique environmental condition it experiences in its journey through space. Number 4. Visual characteristics. Observations have shown that 3I Atlas has a distinctive appearance, often described as having a profile rather than just a streak. This is due to its coma and tail, which can reveal more about its structure and composition. And finally, number 5, anomalies. Some researchers have noted various anomalies in its trajectory and behavior, which has sparked discussions about the potential for unusual origins or even advanced technology, although these claims are still under investigation. 3I Atlas will be the closest to Earth on the 19th of December 2025. Hopefully, it will turn out to be not to be an alien spaceship, and we can all make it to a Christmas dinner, because I don't think humanity is ready currently to face an approximately 5.4 kilometer long space object. But obviously the size is also under arguments, so we shall see. We have also another famous scientist, Neil deGrasse, who says that we should be curious about it, and we don't know or don't have enough information to know yet to decide what is it. While Brian Cook says it's definitely a natural comet, and he criticizes the alien theories. Well, I'm truly looking forward to it on the 19th of December to actually see it close enough. Hopefully NASA and the Chinese Space Agency will release some pictures of 3I Atlas, and we will finally learn what is coming towards us. While we on the topic of flying, I would like to talk about Frankie the flamingo, who is a cute flamingo, and at only 4 months old, she managed to escape from Paradise Park in Cornwall, England, on the 2nd of November and flew more than 130 miles to northern France. Despite her feathers being clipped, and in theory she shouldn't have been able to fly, what a huge distance she made. And it's amazing how she managed to escape and embark on this journey. I hope somebody one day will make a cartoon about this, because I think Frankie deserves some more than 15 minutes of fame. Unfortunately, Frankie won't be able to return home though. Due to avian flu restrictions, the traveling between the EU and the UK for birds is severely restricted currently. However, I don't think Frankie showed her passport when leaving the UK, so that's one thing. The other thing is, we know that cats and dogs speak different dialects depending on where they live. Like American dogs don't bark differently, like Italian dogs, for example. Does that mean Frankie is going to be a bilingual flamingo? She will understand the British English flamingos and the French flamingos, and maybe she will be the first ever flamingo ambassador. Who knows? But I'm all for Frankie and her journey, and maybe she will continue one day. But definitely check out the picture. We're talking about a flamingo that's not even pink yet. She was mainly grey. Well, I hope she's happy in her new home. While we arrived in France with Frankie, let's start and dive into some of my favorite topics, law and history, and talk about some interesting law-related historical facts. One of them is that the posthumous marriage, also known as necrogamy or ghost marriage, in certain countries is still legal. It's a marriage in which at least one of the participating members is deceased. France is one of the countries that covers posthumous marriages in the law and allows it. It started with Napoleon's law in 1803 to ensure to support war widows and their children. The current legislation was enacted in 1949. It's the Article 171 of the French Civil Law, Section 2. As it became relevant again following the deadly rupture of the Maupassant dam, which killed the fiancé of a pregnant woman, it was aimed to legitimize the unborn children whose father had died. So it gives the widow financial support to raise the child. Posthumous marriage in France is a rare legal arrangement. Only approximately 60 to 100 requests are made, and only half of them are being granted, particularly for spouses of soldiers and firefighters. Lately there have been a couple of cases that we're going to mention later. To qualify, applicants must have proved that the deceased would have consented to the marriage and justify the necessity why the union has to happen, such as they shared a long-term life and the death was sudden and unexpected. The process is managed by the Directorate of Civil Affairs. and it takes 6 months to 2 years for the application to run. And the posthumous marriage does not confer full legal rights, particularly regarding succession limiting benefits compared to marriages and civil partnerships. Today, the process is symbolic and not financial. It was originally invented for war widows and pregnant women who had just lost their fiancé. They were allowed to go ahead and legitimize their unborn child while the fiancé was deceased. However, recent examples were the case of Maxime Blasco, who was a French soldier killed in the combat of Mali in 2021, who wished to perform the symbolic act of taking his name. Another case in 2017, Xavier Hugoli. I'm not speaking French, so I probably butchered his name. He was a policeman who was killed in a terrorist attack in the Champs-Élysées, was married to his partner, and the civil code also specified that the posthumous marriage does not lead to the rules of the benefit of the surviving partner. In other words, there is no financial insensitive anymore. It's just a gesture nowadays to make sure that you can take each other's name or be together in some formal way, which is still present in many cultures, for example in Japan and China. It's understandable why people wish to do so, but it's also very interesting. Since we mentioned Napoleon earlier, I think our final interesting procrastinating fact should be about him. The Napoleonic Wars lasted between 1802 and 1815, and we know that it ended with Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte's defeat at the Battle of Waterloo on the 18th of June 1815, and the British exiled Napoleon to St. Helens in October 1815 because they still considered him a flight risk. He was the bogeyman in the eyes of Prussian and British armies, so they decided to keep him as far as possible from anything that he could influence, and they transferred him by the HMS Northumberland on the 17th of August into custody of Admiral Cockburn, who later, on the 15th of October 1815, took him to St. Helena. During those 5.5 years of imprisonment, while he was on the island, there were several plans hatched to help him escape. And according to historians, he was aware of most of them and denied participation in them. One of the plans was very interesting, and we will never going to know historically if it was actually true or not, but it was a plan to help him escape by a submarine. During that time period, early prototypes and plans for submarines already existed, because an American inventor who was living in Paris, Robert Fulton, took an original submarine drawing designed by a gentleman called Bushnell and showed it to the French government, and Napoleon already agreed to give him 10,000 francs to test his invention. So by the time Napoleon was imprisoned, almost a decade and a half later, there were designs and experimental submarines around, and that's when we reach to 1820, when an infamous British smuggler and inventor named Tom Johnson claimed that he was offered £40,000 to rescue Napoleon from his exile of St. Helena, using a self-designed submarine. Born in 1772, Johnson had a reputation for daring exploits and piloted covert naval expeditions despite his criminal records. Napoleon, after multiple escapes and final defeat at Waterloo, was imprisoned on St. Helena, heavily guarded by the British forces, so Johnson's rescue plan involved a mechanical chair and 2 submarines, the Eagle and the Etna, designed for stealth and armed with torpedoes. Don't imagine a submarine like a modern nuclear submarines that can merge into deep sea or even Jules Verne's Nautilus. It was a submarine that could barely merge under the water, and it was very tiny, operated by 1 or 2 persons, and was very, very dangerous. Although Johnson's credibility is questionable, supporting evidence suggests that he had built a submarine and was involved in an earlier secret project. His ambitious theme reflects the ongoing intrigue surrounding Napoleon, though it remains uncertain if Johnson's plan was ever serious or feasible, and obviously, because of how history happened, we know that Napoleon was never saved by a submarine, as he died in St. Helena in 1821. But it's just interesting how they were intrigued to use any kind of means to save Napoleon back in the day. Another interesting fact about him, while we are on the topic of Napoleon, is that he was very well guarded in St. Helena by the 23rd Shropshire Regiment of Foot. And while he was in captivity, he learned English so he could read all the newspapers and all the letters that they were mocking him all over Europe. He got so fond of his guards, he was referring them as his redcoats. He was mingling and sharing food with them, and his fondness was so strong that he gave each of these men a lock of his hair. Nowadays that would be probably weird, but we're talking about back in the days of Victorian times, where it was very common to donate hair as a token of someone's friendship, as a kind, loving gesture towards a friend. Well, he was clearly on good terms with his captors. And that's when, my dear listeners, reached the end of the first ever episode. I hope I didn't bore you too much, and I didn't ramble too long. I'm looking forward to making much more detailed and longer episodes if you're interested. Please get in touch just to suggest any topics, or if you would like to look into anything to procrastinate hours over it. Our email is thekaleidoscopeshow@gmail.com. Thank you, and talk to you later. Bye.